So today we will be looking at object-oriented programming, right? Oops, object-oriented programming, right? So there are some concepts in OOPS, right? There are some properties of OOPS. One is class, another one is objects, right? Another one is inheritance, right? Inheritance, right? Another one is what? Abstraction, right? Abstraction. Another one is encapsulation, encapsulation. Another one is polymorphism, right? Polymorphism, right? These are the properties of object-oriented programming, right? Now, what do we mean by classes? Classes is the named group of properties and functions. For example, this is a class, right? This is a class and it contains some properties, right? Some properties, right? And what? This class contains some properties and some functions, right? Named group of properties and functions, right? Some properties and functions, right? And what is the class? Class is the named group of properties and functions, or we can say it's a template, right? And using this class we can create different objects, right? We can create different objects. These are what? These are the objects, right? These are the objects. So using this class template, we can create different objects. What is an object? Object is an instance of that class, right? We can create an instance of a class, right? That is called an object. So this is object. And why do we create different objects? So that each object can be unique, can have unique properties and functions, right? Why don't we create different classes? We want to utilize the class, right? So we want to utilize a class to create different unique objects, right? So that's why we want to create what? Objects, so that they can have unique properties. Also they can have the same properties as the properties and functions as that of class, right? But we want to we they can have, but if you want to create the unique properties of that, you can have, right? So that is the flexibility objects provides to us, right? That is about objects, right? These are the objects. Now what do we mean by inheritance? Inheritance is inherit, right? So there's a term called inherit, right? So if we have one class A and we have another class B, if this class inherits, B class inherits the properties of A and properties and functions of A and A, right? So what will happen? This B will have access to the properties of A and B, right? If B inherits class A, right, then B class will have all the access to the properties and functions of class A, right? So this is called inheritance, right? This is called inheritance. Now what do we mean by polymorphism? Then we will understand abstraction and encapsulation, right? Polymorphism means if we have same functions, right? Same name of the functions, right? We have same name of the functions, then we can override that function, right? We can override that function, right? For example, if this function prints what? Print hello, right? If this function prints hello, right? Let's say for example, this function does what? There's a function, right? This function does what? It prints hello, right? We can say now I want to print word, right? Word. I don't want to print hello, I want to print word, right? This is called function overriding. Function overriding, right? Function overriding. And this functionality is provided using polymorphism, right? Polymorphism. Polymorphism, right? What do we mean by poly? Poly means many, and morphism means ways, right? So we can define a function in many ways using function overriding. Now this function will become irrelevant, and this function will be what will be executing, right? This is function overriding, and this is called polymorphism, right? This is called polymorphism. Now, what is the difference with what do we mean by abstraction and encapsulation? Let us understand that, right? What do we mean by abstraction? Abstraction and encapsulation, right? What do we mean by abstraction and encapsulation? Let us understand that, right? So, abstraction is provided in design level, right? And encapsulation is provided at implementation level, right? Implementation level. Abstraction is provided using functions, right? and encapsulation is provided using classes, right? Now, what do we mean by design level function and implementation in class? Let us understand that, right? For example, if you want to use your smartphone, right? If you want to use your phone, right? You don't require to know that what is inside the call log, right? If we have some call log here inside your mobile phone, inside your smartphone, there's some functionality, right? You can there's caller button through which we can call, right? There's end button through which we can end a call, right? There are some keypads numbers, right, out there, which is written on our smartphone, right? But how it is actually performing internally function, right? If we are clicking on this cut button, how it is taking us back. If we are clicking this click button, if we are clicking on what button, for example calling button, right? We have some calling button. If we are clicking on this button, how it is what function is occurring at the back end, we don't require to know that, right? So abstractions provide us some functionality, right? It hides your data, it hides the backend data, and it will provide you some functionality. It will say, I will provide you these functionalities. You can use these functionalities to perform any action, right? But I will not show you the data. This is called abstraction, right? It is implemented at design level, right? And it is provided using functions, right? We have given some functionality to the user and we have not shown the data to the user, right? This is called abstraction. Now, what do we mean by encapsulation? Encapsulation is done at implementation level. What is encapsulation? Encapsulation is the wrapping up of data into a bundle, right? So, for example, we have some data here, we have some functions, and we have some what properties, right? We have some variables and properties, right? And we have bundled it in a class, right? This is called encapsulation. Bundling of data is called encapsulation, while hiding the data from the user is called abstraction, right? And this bundling of data is done achieved using classes, right? It's achieved using classes, right? And we can do it in implementation level, right? This is the actual implementation level which is happening, right? This is we are creating classes, right, to bundle our data. This is called encapsulation, right? So that is about what object oriented programming, right? Classes, objects, inheritance, abstraction, encapsulation, and polymorphism. Now we will understand how we can create a class, right? How we can create a class. Now let us understand that, right? So how to create a class? We can create a class using class keyword, right? We can say class, and we can say class name Bharat, right? Or we can say, let's say we will create class human, right? Human, right? Class human. So we have created this class, right? Now, earlier I also gave you an example, right? So for example, in earlier videos I also gave you example what is a class. For an example of a class is human, right? Human class. So we all belong to human class, right? And we are what? For example, I am Bharat, right? Someone be Rahul, right? Someone is another one is Raj, right? What are these? These are an object of these classes. These are an instance of this class, right? This is called objects, right? Bharat, Rahul, Raj is an individual object of this class, right? They have their unique properties and functions, right? They have their unique properties and functions, and these are objects, right? These are objects, and this is a class, so which we have inherited properties and functions, right? This is called what? This is an example of classes and objects, right? This is an example of classes and objects, right? Now, how to create a class? We can create a class using class keyword, right? We can say class, and then we can define a class name, and we can define a class, right? We can say inside this class, I want what? I want age, human's age will be what? 56. And we can say inside it, I want what? I want roll number, right? I want roll number of this human to be 78, right? So this is some what? Let's say for example, I also want name, right? I also want name. I can say name will be what? Name will be name will be Rahul, right? I can say Rahul. Name will be Rahul. These are some properties inside our class, right? These are some properties inside our class. This is age variable which contains 56 value. This is roll number variable which contains 78 value. This is name variable which contains Rahul value, right? This is a class. We can define class using class keyword, right? Then, and in class keyword, we our first name should be this this class name. In class name, this is what our first alphabet should be H, right? A capital letter, right? Our first letter should be in class name. Our first letter should be capital letter. This is a convention, right? So H in human, H will be capital, right? So this is our class. Now how can we access the elements of a class? We can create an object of this class. We can create an element, we can access the element of the class directly also. We can say human dot age, right? It will give us what? Age, right? Age of human. We can print this, right? We can print. We have directly called the class what? Variable, right? We have directly called the class variable. Control X, yes, enter. If we say Python 3 understand dot py, Python 3 understand dot py, right? Okay, so we haven't given right syntax, right? We cannot we here it will interpret that there are two variables, right? Control X, yes, enter. Python 3 understand dot py, right? 56 has been given, right? We can access directly the elements of a class by using that class, right? By using that class, and after dot we can put whatever we want to access. But if we want to create object of that class and we want to access uh, the classes using that object, right? How can we access that? Let us understand it. How to create an object of a class? We can create object of a class using what? For example, b equals to b is an object, right? B is an object, and we let's say not b, let's say I want to create an object Raj, right? Or Rahul, let's say Rahul, right? I haven't given the right name, Rahul, right? Rahul is an object. We have created Rahul object, right? Now what we want to do? We want to access the elements. How to create an object? Syntax of how to create an object, right? We can say Rahul equals to what? Class name, right? Class name human, and after that this round brackets, right? Now this will create an object, Rahul object, right? This human, this human bracket will create Rahul object, right? And what is this? What, this is a class name, right? And we have called this class name, right? And we have created an object. And what happened internally? Internally a constructor was called, right? A constructor was called, and this constructor was called, what is that constructor? That is the default constructor, right? That is the default construction which has been called, right? And what that default constructor does, it does what it does. Its duty is to create an object, right? Is to create an instance of that class, right? And it will not provide any default value to this Rahul, what, Rahul object. It will not provide any default value to this Rahul object. So what happened internally, you have to understand this, right? What happened internally, understand this, right? What happened internally, let us understand that, right? So what happened internally? We have created a class, right? We have created a human class, right? This is human class. Inside it, let's say I will write this human class outside, right? So we have created this human class, right? This human class, right? And we have done what? We have created some variables, right? For example, we have created age, right? We have created roll number, right? Roll number. And we have created what? We have created this name, right? Name. And we have provided some value to it. We have provided 56 to it. We have what provided? We have provided 78 to it, right? We have provided 78 to it. and name we have provided Rahul here, right? Rahul. So this class has been, whenever we define a class, right? Whenever we have created a class, right? We have created this class, right? Class this. If we have not created this object, if we have created only this class, right? What happened in the memory? In the heap memory, a class has been created, right? A copy of that class has been created, right? And this copy of class contains what? Age, roll number, and Rahul, right? Now, when we create object of that class, for example, we can say Rahul. I want to create Rahul object using class name human and a bracket, right? Internally, what happened? A constructor has been called and it has created this class, right? This human and then bracket. What it does? It called the constructor, right? And it has created an instance of that class. So Rahul object has been created. Now what happened? Now this happened that a Rahul object has been created. A Rahul object has been created, right? A Rahul object has been created using this class, right? And this Rahul object will have access to this elements inside the class, right? This Rahul object will have access to these elements which are inside the class, right? But it doesn't contain its individual, its unique variables, right? Now, how to create unique variables? So, what it does, constructor does, constructor created nothing but it created an object of this class, right? And this object contains no value. It has not initialized the value of this object. It has created just the object, right, of that class, right? This is the work of the constructor, right? So now understand this. We have created this object, right? Now this object doesn't contain any value, right? Any variable, right? But if we will call Rahul dot age, right? And we will print it, let's say Rahul dot age, and we will print it, right? We can say print Rahul age, right? Rahul age, right? Control X, yes, enter. Python C understand.py 56 has been printed. But Rahul doesn't contain any age variable, right, inside it. So what happened? So when we called what? When we called this Rahul age, when we called Rahul dot age, what happened internally? It went here, right? It went to Rahul object and it said I want age, right? But Rahul said I don't contain any age variable, but I have access to human class, right? There you can find the age variable, right? Then it will check in human class, right? Does it contain age variable? Yes, it contains age variable. So it will what is the default value of it? It is 56. So it will provide us 56, right? This is what happened. Let's say, for example, we create another object, right? We create another object and we name it, let's say, Bharat, right? We named it Bharat, right? And we say equals to, and I say human, and I created an object, Bharat, right? What happened here? What happened here? Understand this, right? What happened here? A new object has been created, named as what? Bharat, right? Named as Bharat. A new object has been created named as Bharat, right? Named as Bharat, right? A new object has been created named as Bharat. It does also doesn't contain any variable, right? Any variable or value, right? But it has access to all the uh, variables and values inside this human class because it has been created via human class, right? It has been it is an instance of that human class. That's why it has access to all the values and variables inside human class, right? Now if we say what? If we say I want to print, right? I want to print what? Bharat, Bharat dot age, right? Now what will happen? Bharat dot age. I want to print Bharat dot age, right? Control X, yes, enter, enter, right? Python 3 understand.py 56. That Rahul's age is also 56 and Bharat's age is also 56. Now what happened? Understand this. So what happened? So first we called Rahul.age, then we called Bharat.age. Right? What happened? So first it went to Rahul.age. It said I want age variable. It doesn't contain age variable. You can look into the class, right? Human class. Then it will go to this human class and it will find out that yes, there's it age variable and it contains 56 value. I will give it 56, right? Now again it will go to Bharat object and will say I want age variable, right? Age variable value. But Bharat will say I doesn't contain any age variable. Now you can go to the class and then I will check to this class, human class, and it contains age variable and this will be provided, right? 56 has been provided in. This is what happens when we create a class, when we try to access that class variable, uh, if we don't have any class variable inside it. Right. Earlier we were accessing, right? We were accessing like this, right? We were accessing what? We were accessing we were accessing human dot age. What happened? Human dot age, right? So we were printing this human dot age, right? We were printing this human dot age, right? So what happened? It went to human class and said, I want age of it. It is 56. It has found out. It has given 56, right? So this is what happened. When we created an object of that class, a by default constructor has been called, and this default constructor doesn't do anything inside the object. It just create an object, right? It just create an object, and this is called default constructor, right? So this is what happened. Now understand this, right? Nano understand.py, right? Now understand this. How can we create the variable inside it, inside an object? How can we create variable inside it? We can define our own variable, right? Our object's own variable. It can be it can be unique, right? So we can say Rahul dot age. I want what? I want Rahul dot age to be 100, right? And I want Rahul dot roll number, right? Roll roll number to be what? I want Rahul dot roll number to be 600, right? And I want what? I want dot Rahul dot name to be what? Name to be Rahul dot name to be Raj, for example. Rahul dot name to be Ra. Let's say Rahul only. We have given it Rahul name only, right? If we print these, right? If we print these, if we try to print this, print what? Rahul dot age, right? Comma Rahul dot what? We have given what? Roll number, right? Roll number, comma Rahul dot what? Name, right? If we try to print this, let's see what happened. Control X, yes, enter. Python 3 understand.py, right? 100, 600, Rahul has been printed, right? So what happened? When we said, what? When we said, I want to create Rahul dot age to be 100, I want to set Rahul dot roll number to be 600, and then I said Rahul dot name to be Rahul. When I did this, when I said this, right, what happened? Age variable has been created. There was no age variable has been created, and it has been set to age equals to 100. Then roll number 600 has been set, then name Rahul has been set, right? This was set. And when we called what? Print. When we said print Rahul dot age, right? And we said print Rahul dot roll number, right? Rahul dot roll number. Then we said print, do what? Rahul dot name, right? What happened? What value it has printed? It went to Rahul object and it said, I have found age here, right? Age is 100. I will print 100. I have found roll number here. Roll number is 600. And I have found name here. Name is Rahul, right? Name is Rahul, right? I went here to Rahul object and I said, age is what? 100. I found a roll number 600. I found name Rahul, right? I will not go here then. I have found in this object, I will satisfy, I will go out of this object and I will print the value, right? So this is what happened. But if I try to access Bharat.age, right? If I try to access Bharat.age, it will be again be 56 only. These changes are made in what? These changes are made in this Rahul object. These changes are not made in Bharat object. It will go here age to find out age here age only, right? And it will go to Bharat object only, right? It will say I want age. Bharat doesn't contain any age. It will go here to the class age, right? Here it will find age and it will print that age, right? It will print 56, right? This is what happened. This is how we can set the values of this object, right? This is how we can set the values of those objects, right? Right, understood. Now if for example I don't want to set it like it, right? I don't want to set it like let's say I have some Rahul, right? Created an object Rahul human this, right? And I don't want to do it like Rahul dot age. I want to do something, some value here. I don't want, right? I don't want to do this. I want to create an object, and inside that object only, during the object creation phase only, I want what? I want to assign it some value. I want to assign it some my value, right? The value I have inside my object. I don't want that I I don't want to create what an empty object. I want to create an object where I can provide it some value, some properties and functions of mine only, right? How can we do this? We can do this using init method, right? We can do this using what? Init method. There's a method known as init, right? We can do this using this, right? What is this method? This is called a constructor, right? This is called a constructor. And it provides what? It helps to initialize an object, right? Earlier we were creating anti object, right? Now it will initialize our object with the values, right? This hyphen, this underscore. So this is a function, right? And whenever we define a function using underscore, right, this is called a special function, a special method, right? And we can do what? We can override these methods. We can override these methods, right? Override this method. Earlier I said that when we create an object, when we created an object using what? When we created an object using something like, for example, we have Rahul. We have created Rahul object and we did human bracket. We have created this object, right? An object has been created, right? And when this object was created, what happened? A default constructor was called, right? A default constructor was called, and this default constructor creates an empty object, Rahul here, right? Rahul here. But we don't want this. We want to override the override this the functionality of this constructor, and we want to say that I want to create constructor of my own, right? I want to create constructor of my own, right? I want to create constructor of my own. So when I create constructor of my own, right, these the functions of this constructor will get override, right? The any functionality of this constructor will get override. This is called special magic function or special function, and init is a constructor, right? and we can override this init constructor, right? And we can say I want what, during object creation phase only I want to have my default value, right? My default value, I don't want the default value of the class, I want my value, right? So this is what, this is constructor. Now also understand this, that this constructor cannot be empty, right? So we cannot create a constructor function, right, init function with empty parameter. Why? Let us understand it. Let us say for example this this class has an some function, right? We can say fun, right? Say some function, right? Fun, and inside it we have nothing, and we can say we have so to create a function we have to provide colon, right? Then we can say this fun will print what, print hello, right? Print hello, right? This function will print hello, right? And we will call this function using our object, right? Then we can create our object, right? Let's say I want to create Rahul object, right? Rahul equals to what, this human, and this human contains this, right? So I have created a Rahul object, right? Now I want to access the elements of Rahul, right? I can say Rahul dot function. I want to access this function Rahul dot function. Control X, yes, enter. It will give me error, right? Error, right? Why it has given me error? Let us understand this, right? So whenever let's say for example in our inside our class, right? Inside our class, what, human class, we have something, we have defined a function, right? Fun, right? We have defined that function and we have said print hello, right? Print hello, and we have called this we have created an object of this class named as Rahul, right? Object human, this, right? Now when we said Rahul dot fun, right? Rahul dot fun, right? When we have called this function, right? Now what happened, understand this, is inside this function, whenever we try to create an object this of this function, whenever we try to access what, this function inside a class using our object, what happens, it passes inside the function, this inside this bracket, it passes this object, right? It passes the object which is calling this function, right? Which is calling this function. Constructor is also a function, right? So understand this, what happened when we said Rahul dot fun, this Rahul has been passed here, right? And then this function was called, right? But this function doesn't contain any parameters, right? This is the argument, we have given this object as an argument, but this does not contain any what, parameter, right? In the same way, when we define a constructor inside a class, right, we can say class, right? Class human, we have created this class, right? Class human, and inside it what we will say, we will create a constructor, right? Def function is defined using def keyword, right? Underscore underscore init, right? Init underscore, and we have this brackets, right? Now this will contain what, this will contain self, right? Self is the parameter, right? Why it is required? Because it will be sending that as an argument what, object, right? And there should be something to store that object, and what is that, we have self here, right? This is the naming convention, right? Self, we can use any name here, right? But for the naming convention, we can say, we can name the parameter which will accept the object will be self, right? Self comma, now what we want age of it, and we want name of it, right? Let's say For example, we want age of it and we want name of it, right? And then we can say print what? Take. And then this self, this is an object, right? We have created this object and we will take an age and name, right? Now we have to give instruction to the computer, that to the Python compiler, that what is it that we want to have these age and name that we got. We have to give it to this object's age and name. Now we can say self dot age. It will create a variable age inside it, right? And we can say give it age, right? And in the same way we can say do what? Self self object dot what? Name equals to give what? Name, right? This we can say, we can provide the name to it. Then we can do what? We can print what? Print age, comma, not age. Self dot age, right? We can say I want to print this self dot age and comma self dot name, right? I can print it, right? I can print it self dot age and self dot name, right? And here I will call this class. Uh, I will create an object of this class, right? For example, I can say Rahul equals to. Now it will, using human class, I can say human. We will create an object, right? Human, and this Rahul object will be provided by default to self, right? Then we can say age should be 14, comma name should be Rahul, right? Rahul, Rahul. This should be our name, right? And then this Rahul has got this, right? Or we can return it, right? Here in this function, we can say I want to return, right? No, we will not return it. It will just create, right? So this is not an ordinary function. This is a constructor, right? It will just initialize the value, right? We can't do anything else right here. So now it will initialize it, right? It will initialize it, and then we can print Rahul dot age, right? Rahul dot age. We can print it, right? We can also print Rahul dot name, right? We can print Rahul dot name, right? Rahul dot name, right? We can print it. Control X, yes, enter. Python 3 understand.py, right? 49 Rahul has been printed, right? Now let us understand what happened, right? What happened? So we have created a class human and we have defined a constructor here, and it will accept self age name, and self dot age equals to age, and self dot name means this object's age variable will be created and it will contain this age. This age can be of any type. If, for example, if we say in place of age we say n, we can provide it n, and we can say y, we can provide it y, right? So this is how we define it. Now how it is created internally. Let's say for example we have defined a class, right? So this has been created inside heap memory, human class, right? This has been created, but it does not contain any value. It has a constructor which contains that I will contain what? Object, and I will contain what? Name and age, right? Age and name, right? So whenever this constructor will be called, it will initialize the object, right? Now we have created an object, right? We have created an object named Rahul, right? And we have said that I will do what? I will provide 14 age and Rahul as name. Now it has this constructor has been called whenever this object creation takes place. Constructor is called, right? Now this constructor is called, and it is said that okay, this object dot age, create age here, right? Create age here and provide the value of 14 to it, and this name here and provide the value of Rahul here, right? Provide the value of Rahul here. So this has been created internally. This happened, right? And then we tried to access Rahul.age and Rahul.name. What happened? Rahul.age. We tried to access Rahul.age, right? From this class, this object has been created. Rahul.age. We tried to access, right? So it will go to Rahul object and it will say, okay, I want your age. I can say yes, 14 is your age. And if I say Rahul dot name, then it will be like, okay, Rahul, right? This is the work of self and what? This is how we can create an object, right? We can create another object, right? We can say Bharat equals to human 21 comma what Bharat, and then we can print Bharat dot age and Bharat dot name, right? And we so when we create an object, right, of Bharat, a Bharat object has been created, Bharat, and then we can say age equals to 21 and name equals to Bharat, right? Bharat. This is how it works internally. When we create an object using what? Our init constructor by overriding the functionality of our default constructor and by creating our own init constructor, right? This is what happens. We have understood it, right? Right. This is what happens. So we have understood class, right? We have understood how to create a class. Right, we have understood constructor, right? Now we have to understand what do we mean by class variable, instance variable, static method, class method, right? Now there are variables also inside this class also, right? We have class variable, right? We have instance variable. Class variable are also called static variable, right? So there are some variables, right? There are some variables, right? There are some variables, right? There are some variables inside a class, right? Uh, Also, one more thing I want to tell you is that this human doesn't contain anything. What if we we say I want to create human dot what? Human dot gender. Human dot gender equals to male, right? M, right? Let's say so. What will happen? It will create here gender, right? Gender equals to male, right? And if I try to access if I try to access Rahul dot gender, what will happen? It will go find Rahul's gender here, but if it will not find out, it will go to human class and it will find out the gender and it will print that M, right? So when we said what human, when we said human dot human dot what this gender equals to what, equals to male, right? Equals to male, right? So what happened here? This male gender has been created in what human, right? Now when we say print this, right, print what, rahul dot gender, right? Rahul dot gender, right? And then control x, yes, enter. We understand.py, right? Python 3, Python 3 understand.py, right? Raw. So male has been printed, right? So it has found it here, right? In this class, right? Now in this only we have what? We have class variable, instance variable, right? What do we mean by class variable? What do we mean by instance variable? Let us understand that, right? Let us understand that, right? Right. Let us understand that, right? Right. So there are two variables inside a class. One is known as class variable, right? Class variable. One is known as instance variable. Instance variable, right? It is also known as what? Static variable, right? Static variable. Now this class or static variable does not depend on object, right? Does not depend on object, right? It depends on object, right? Depends on object, right? This instance variable depends on object. This class variable or static variable does not depend on object, right? They will be common for all, right? This class variable will be common for all, right? They will be unique for all the object, right? That depends on the object. That does not depend on the object. So now let's understand how we can create a static variable, right? So let's say, for example, we have a class, right? Class, and let's say, for example, human, right? Class human, colon, and then we have what? We have defined a what? Uh, and constructor, right? A constructor, hyphen, not hyphen, underscore, right? In it, underscore, and inside it, we'll pass self, right? And we can say, I want age, I want name, right? Age and name, right? Also, here in this function, I have to put colon, right? Colon. Then I can say, I want what? I want self dot age variable create in this self object, right? And give it what? Age, right? In the same way, I want to give name to the self dot name, right? I can say self dot name, right, equals to name, right? This is how we can create a class, right? Then we can say I will call a class, right? I can call this class using object. I have to create an object. Let's say Rahul is our object, right? Rahul equals to how to create an object. We can say human, right? Human, right? This is how we create an object. We have to pass something, right? Age, right? For example, age is 19, comma, and name is Rahul, right? Rahul, right? Then if we call this class, right, using this object Rahul dot the elements of this class Rahul dot age, it will give us what? Age, right? Or we can say Rahul dot name, right? It will give us name, right? But now what are static variables? Understand this is that static variables are common for all, right? For all objects, right? And it does not depend on the object, right? So before what? Before the constructor, we can say, I want to declare a static class, uh, what? Static variable or class variable, right? I can declare something, right? For example, let's say I want to say how many adults are there. I can say adults, right? Equals to how many adults are there. Let's say, for example, 0 adults are there. Initial value is 0, right? We can define this. This is a static variable. Adults is an static variable, right? Adults is an static variable, right? Or we can say class variable. It does not depend on the object, right? So whenever a new object will create, it will not affect it, right? Let's say, for example, we have created this object Rahul, human 19 comma Rahul, and we say what? We print this, right? We have printed this. Print what? Rahul dot what? Adults, right? Rahul dot adults. We can call it, right. It is inside this human class. We can call this adult side. I will call it control X. Yes, enter Python 3 Python 3 understand dot py, right. 0, right. Adult's value is 0, right. So this happens, right. So this happens, right? We can also say one more thing inside our constructor. So what happened? Uh, so why it has given us 0? Because it has not asked for any adults value, right? We It is not what object dependent, right? It is common for all objects, right? Also understand this, that if we, let's say, when we create an object, right, we want to increase the value of adults by 1, right? We can say whenever you add a human object to this class, right? A human object by taking instance of this class, right? Then in this class, the value of adults will increase by 1, right? We can say adults plus equals to 1. It is same as adults equals to adults plus 1, right? So then what will happen? It will take the value of adults and increase it by 1, right? And then if we so we have created this object, right? Rahul equals to human 19 comma Rahul, right? Now if we print Rahul dot adults, it should give us what? 1, because the value has been increased. This constructor has been called, right? Also understand this, that which adults you want to increase. I have to define it, right? I want to have human dot adults, right? I want to have this class dot adults, right? This class dot adults, right? I want to take adults from where? I want to take adults from this class, right? We can also define this adults in this, right? We can say Rahul dot adults equals to, we can declare some value for Rahul dot adults, right? But what value we want to access? We want to access human dot adults, right? Humans class adults static variable we want to access, and we want to increase it by 1, right? Control X, yes, enter. If we did this, right, Python say understand.py, 1 has been printed. It has been increased by 1, right? Also, if after printing it, you create another object, right? For example, Bharat, right? Bharat, and we can say equals to human, right? Human, and we can say Bharat's age is 20, comma, and Bharat, Bharat, right? This is his what? His uh name, right? And we can say print it, right? Print, print what? Print Bharat dot adults, right? Bharat dot adults. Now let's see what happens. Control X, yes, enter. Another object has been created, right? So when one object was created, one was adults was added, right? Then another object is created, another adult was added, right? Understand this. What is happening? Let us understand this, right? So what happened is that we have what? We had a class, right? We have defined our class, right? This is human class, right? This is human class. And we have said what? Uh, Create a static variable, which is adults, right? Number of adults, right? And we can say number of adults equals to what? We can say number of adults for initial value, we can say 0, right? We have created this class, right? Then we created an object of this class, right? We created an object of this class named as Rahul, right? Rahul. And we did what? We said that when we create this class, when we create this object, we said its age. Age will be what? By default, its age will be 19, right? And its name will be what? Rahul, right? We have called the constructor, right? But we have also said that what? We have also said that this, whenever a new class is created, whenever this default constructor runs, also do what? In human class, take adults what? Static variable, and add it to it 1, right? Add 1 to it, right? And then assign it to human dot adults, right? So what happened here is that whenever this object was created, it has increased its value by 1, right? So when we printed Rahul dot adults, right, it went where? It went to Rahul object. It did not find out, right? It then went to human class, right? And it find out adults, right? Then he printed once, right? Then another object we have created, another object, right? and its name is Bharat, right? Bharat. And we said what? Its age would be 20 and its name would be Bharat, right? Name would be Bharat. And then again its value is increased by 1, right? Whenever a constructor is called, you increase the value by 1, right? Whenever a new object is created, increase the value by 1, right? Then we said Bharat dot adults, right? Bharat dot adults. It should give us what? 2, right? Also, understand this, if we have done it like that, right? So we have printed it here, right? If we, let's say, don't print this Rahul dot adults before that, right? If I say I want to do what? I have created two objects, then I will print it, right? Print Rahul dot adults, right? Rahul dot adults, right? Control X, yes, enter. Both value should be 2, right? Both value should be 2. Python 3 understand.py, right? Both values 2. Why? Understand this, right? Understand this, that let's say we have not printed it earlier, right? We have not printed it earlier, right? What have we done? We have created two objects, right? So when, let's say, again I will draw it, right? Let's say again I will draw it, right? We have this class adults, right? And we have this zero value, right? We have created an object named as Rahul, right? And we have given it what? Its age is 19, right? And we have named this Rahul, right? We have created another object and we said Bharat, right? Bharat. And its age is what? Age is 20, right? And name is what? Name is Bharat, right? And then what have we done? So when we created first object, this is incremented by 1, right? And when we create another object, this is again incremented by 1, right? So now adults is equals to 2, right? Now if we try to access either Rahul dot adults or Bharat dot adults, right? Bharat dot adults, it will give us what? Both will give us what? 2 and 2, right? Both will give us what? 2, right? Because this is common value, right? When you try to access Rahul dot adults, it will find out adults is there. No, it will go to the class adults is there and its value is 2. In the same way, in Bharat, adults is there. No, it will go to the human class and it will say adults is 2, right? So this is what happened here, right? Also understand this, right? If we have done what? If we have, let's say, created what? Rahul, we have created Rahul class, right? And we have increased the value by 1, right? Now if we say, instead of printing this, I say, do what? Create Rahul dot adults, right? And assign it with Rahul dot adults plus 1, right? We have incremented the value of Rahul dot adults plus 1. Now let's see what happened. Now if we print it, right? Print, print, right? Print what? Rahul dot adults, right? Rahul dot adults. Also print what? Print Bharat dot adults, right? Print Bharat dot adults, right? Print Bharat dot adults. Then what will happen? This was 2, right? Two objects was created, so adults was 2, right? Right now, when we created Rahul dot adults, what happened? Understand this, right? Python 3 understand.py 3 Rahul dot adults and Bharat is 2 only. Why? Let us understand this, right? Let us understand. So what happened here? We said create what? Instead of printing it, right? Instead of printing it, don't print it, right? Don't print it. Do what? do what? Create Rahul dot adults plus equals to 1. It is same as Rahul dot adults equals to Rahul dot adults plus 1, right? It is same as this, right? So what happened is that it said Rahul dot adults. What is the value of Rahul dot adults? It goes to Rahul and say I want adults value, but it has not any adults value. It will go to this class, human class. It will say, okay, I have two adults value. Okay, two. Add it with one, right? Three. Now assign this three, right? This three to this Rahul dot adults. Create a new variable named as adults and give it what? Give it a value of three, right? Give it a value of 3. So this time what happened is that now if we say I want to do what? I want to say Rahul dot adults. I want to find out Rahul dot adults and I want to find out Bharat dot adults, right? Bharat dot adults. So what happened? So this time what happened? It went to Rahul's object and it said, okay, what is the value of adults? It has found out the variable adults, right? So its value is 3. It has said, okay, I have found in Rahul's object's adults value, I will print it, right? But now in Bharat's dot adults, it will go to Bharat's object, right? And it will say what is the value of adults, right? If it there's no adults variable, right, present here, then it will go to what? It will go to human class and it will say what is the value of adults. It is 2, right? So 2 is here, right? No increment in the value of adults happened. Why? Because this variable was created in Rahul object only, right? So it does not have to go to human class and change the value or access the value, right? So this is what happened here, right? If we say, if we now again say what? If we now, let's say, not print this, right? We have incremented adults value by 1, right? Also, if we have incremented it 100 times also, let's say for example Rahul dot adults, right? Rahul dot adults, Rahul dot adults, right? And we said plus equals to 1, again incremented by 1, right? I can again say Rahul dot adults, right? Rahul dot adults plus equals to incremented by 1, right? And if I say print what? Bharat dot adults, right? Bharat Bharat dot adults, right? Print Bharat dot adults, right? Now what will happen? Okay, we haven't write the name right here. Print Bharat dot adults, right? Bharat dot adults. Control X, yes, enter. Python C understand dot py, right? 5 is here, 2 is here. Why? Why this has happened? Understand this. Understand this, right? We have done what? Just let me raise this, right? We have done what? We have said Rahul dot adults plus equals to 1, right? Again we said Rahul dot adults plus equals to 1, right? And then we said Rahul dot adults plus equals to 1, right? Then we said what? Then access the value of Rahul dot adults and access the value of Bharat dot adults, right? What happened? What happened here? Right? Right? What happened here? Understand this, right? When these two objects were created, humans, human class adults, what variables value was 2, right? Now what happened? We have said Rahul dot adults, right? We have said Rahul dot adults plus 1 equals to 1. We have said increment the Rahul dot adults value by 1, add it by 1 and then assign it to what? Adults, right? We have said adults equals to what? 3, right? We have add 2 with 1, right? Now 3 is here. Again we have said add Rahul dot adults with a value by 1. It will go to Rahul dot adults and it will find out that adults value is 3, right? So it will add 1 to it, right? Again assign to it 2 adults, right? Again it will go to Rahul dot adults plus equals to 1. It will again go to this adults value and it will increment it by 1, right? This is 5, right? Now what happened? We have said I want Rahul dot adults. No changes happened in this class adults variable, right? So this is what happened. Now we have said that I want what? Rahul dot adults value. So this time it will go to Rahul's class, Rahul's objects and find out adults value is 5. It will print 5, right? And now we have said I want Bharat dot adults value. It will go to Bharat. It will not find out that there is no adults variable, right? It will then go to what? Human class, and it will find out that okay, adults value is what? 2. So it will print what? 2, right? This is what happened, right? Again understand this, that let's say for example we have created another class, right? Another object of this class, right? Let's say for example I have created what? Before printing it, right? before printing it before printing it, I have created another class, right? I have created what? Let's say Sohan, right? I have created Sohan equals to human, the object, right? Human, and we have 21. His age is 21, comma, and his name is Sohan, right? Sohan. His name is Sohan. And then we said what? Print what? Print print Bharat dot what? Adults, right? Bharat dot adults. And what print? Print what? Rahul dot adults, right? Rahul dot adults, right? Print what? Print Sohan dot adults, right? Sohan dot adults, right? Control X, yes, enter. Python 3 understand.py, right? 353, right? Bharat dot adults value is 5. How? And all this value is 3. How? Understand this, right? Understand this. So what happened here is that when you said this was there, right? So when you said Rahul dot adults plus equals to 1, Rahul dot then 3 times you have added here, right? And then 5 is there, 2 is there. Now you have created another object, right? You have said Sohan, right? I have created Sohan object. Now what happened? Understand this, right? So you have created another object, right? You have created another object. Of this class, you have created another object named as Sohan, right? Now what happened is its age by default we have given is 21 and we have said its name should be what? Sohan, right? Sohan. And then we what happened here? When this Sohan was created, increment the value by 1, right? Add adults by 1, right? So we have added the adults value by 1, right? So this time this is 3, this is 5, right? When we try to access it in the same fashion, right? We have said what? Bharat dot adults. I want the value of Bharat dot adults. I want the value of Sohan dot adults, right? And then I want the value of what? I want the value of this Rahul dot adults, right? Rahul dot adults. What happened here is that Bharat dot adults. It goes to Bharat and said, I want adults value. It does not find out. It goes to human class and says, I want adults value. It is 3, right? So it is 3 has been printed. In the same way, it goes to Sohan object. It says, I want adults value. Sohan says, I don't contain any adults value. You can check in the class, right? It will check in the class. And here, adults value is what? 3. Again 3, right? And then it goes to Rahul and it says, I want adult value. Rahul says, yeah, it is present. Adults variable is present. The 5 is there, right? 5 is there, right? So this is what happened. But understand this, right? Understand this. Adult should be common for all, right? So whenever in a country a new adult has been added, right? It should be common for all. it should not be like that for this human object. Adults for Rahul, adults value, the number of adults in the country is 5, and for Bharat object, number of adults in the country is 3. It should not be like that. So we should not change the value of this static variable using objects, right? Using objects, we should not change the value of static variables, right? This is dangerous, right? Because it then loses its logic, right? It then loses its logic. There's no logic that adults value for Bharat is 3 and adults value for Rahul is 5. There's no logic, so loses its logic, right? So you can access it from outside and can change the value of a static variable, right? But you should not do that, right? It is not logical. A static variable value should not affect by the object. It should be common for all the objects, right? So that is about static variable, or we can say class variable. Now again, we have another thing known as what? Okay, so I have differentiated between instance variable. It depends on the object, right? This are the static variable, right? Age, name, right? So it depended on the object, right? But for Rahul, it was 19, age was 19. For Bharat, age was 20, right? These are called what? Uh, this, what do we call this? We call this instance variable, right? This is called static or class variable, and this is called instance variable, right? Understood, right? Right. Now, we will be understanding what? Static method, right? Static method. So, whenever we create a function, right, inside a class, now to access that function, we need to provide something, right? We need to provide it some self value, right? To access those functions, right? Let's say, for example, we have some function, right? For example, def, and we say what? Let's say def, and we say, let's say something like fun, right? Fun. We can say something like this. This is our function, right? This is our function. And we say what to do inside this function. Print something, right? Print hello, right? Hello. Using this function, print hello, right? Now if we try to access it outside the class and say, we can create an object of this class. Let's say, for example, I create Rahul, right? Rahul equals to this. My age should be, Rahul's age should be what? Rahul, human. Its age should be 19, right? And we can say its name should be Rahul, right? Rahul, right? This is, we have created this object. Now, if we try to access it, Rahul dot fun, right? If we try to access it, what will happen here? Rahul will be passed here, right? And it will be passed here, right? Now, it should have some self, right? It should have some parameter to accept this argument, this object as an argument, right? This should have something, this function should have something inside it, some parameter inside it in function definition, so that it can accept an argument which is provided by this Rahul.fun, and this object has and this object only has been provided, right, as an argument here, and parameter will accept that argument, right? That should be there. But if we don't provide, then it should throw us error, right? But if we can change this functions what means, if we say, let's say, it should not depend on the object, right? It is depending on the object, right? If we say we don't want it to depend on object, we want it what? We want it that it should not depend on the object, right? Then what should happen, right? So if we define any function, it will depend on the object if we try to access that object, right? Now what I want is that I will try to access any function, right? Through the object, and it should not depend on the object. It should not send here self, right? It should not send here object itself, right? So what can I can declare, how I can declare a static method using at the rate static, right? Static method, right? Static method. This is called a decorator, right? This is called a decorator. This is used to change the behavior of a function, right? This is called a decorator. It is used to change the behavior of a function, right? So it has changed the behavior of this function, right? It will now not require any what? Any this value, right? And we can say it should print what? Let's say I will not print hello. I will print what? I will print this adults, right? I can say print human dot adults, right? Return this value, right? Return, return, return human dot adults, right? So earlier, if we have said return human dot adults without declaring at the rate static method, without using this decorator to change the behavior of the function, what will happen? Rahul had been passed here, right? And Rahul had been passed here, right? Now this Rahul will get confused that you want to return human dot adults, but now you are returning what? You are saying I want to pass this method, right? I don't want that, right? I want what? I want, I don't want it to depend on the object, right? It should not accept any argument which is provided by this Rahul dot fun, right? I can declare it at the rate static method, right? What a static method does, a static method does not depend on the object, right? As simple as that, right? Control X, yes, enter. We have to print, right? We have to print the value, right? We can say, do what? Print Rahul dot fun, right? Print Rahul dot fun, control X, yes, enter. Python 3 understand.py 1, right? 1. Only one object was created, right? So 1, right? So what happened here? Understand this, right? We have what? We have a class, human class, right? We have a human class. This was separate, earlier was separate. This was for static variable, right? Now this is for static method, right? We have human class, we have said we have something known as adults, right? Its by default value is 0. We have created an object, we have said named is at Rahul, and we have said age is what? Age is 19, and its name is what? Rahul, right? Name is Rahul. We have said do what? Whenever new object is created, increment its value by 1, right? Increment its value by 1. And we said I want human dot adults, right? Human dot adults, it will increment the value by 1, right? So uh, I want to access it, it will go to human class and it will say what is the value of adult, it is 1, right? So it is 1 has been declared, right? We have declared earlier what? At the rate static method, and it has done what? Don't pass self here, right? Don't pass self here inside what? Our class, right? Don't pass self here. Using this, we have changed the behavior of this function, right? This is called a static method. A static method does not depend on the object. It has not asked for an object, right? This is what happened, right? This was what's happened. Now there's another method known as what? Static There's another method known as class method, right? There's another method inside a class, right? Let's say inside a class, we have class method, right? Let's say I define the value, I say def class CLSS class, right? Class, right? It will accept what? For example, class I have given some variable, right? Let's say, for example, class what? Determine, right? Determine class determine. Determine is my class name, right? And I have to, okay, this was my function, right? I can say def determine, right? And inside it, I will accept a class, right? CLS class, right? I will accept a class. And I will say, do what? Accept this class and print and do what? Human dot adults, do it as 0. Do it as 0, right? Means take class method human dot adults, right? Or we can say class dot adults, right? So we can say class dot adults and do it as 0, right? Now what will happen? If we created an object, right? If we created an object, it should return 1, right? What? This class dot adult should return 1, right? Class dot object should return 1, right? We can say print what? Print this class determine, not determine. We can access it using Rahul, right? We can say Rahul dot determine, right? Rahul dot determine and what? 19 comma, uh, 19 not 19 comma. We can directly access this, right? We can directly access this, right? Now what will happen? Understand this. When we try to print Rahul dot determine, right? Now what will happen? Rahul dot determine will will try to access this determine class, and this determine function, it will pass Rahul here, right? But instead of passing Rahul here, earlier it should be passing Rahul here, right? We want to pass class, right? But right now it will not pass class, right? How can we say that? How can we uh, ensure that class is passed using class method, right? How to declare class method? We can declare class method using another decorator named as at the rate, right? At the rate class method, right? Class method does what? Class method passes a class inside our method, right? So inside this parameter, it passes a class, right? So at the rate class method will now what? Do what? If we try to access it using anything, right? For example, Rahul dot determine or human dot determine or what? Or this the another object we have created, Bharat dot determine, right? So when we try to access that Rahul dot determine, it will do what? It will access it, right? It will find out what is the class of Rahul object. Its class is human, right? It will pass human here. Then it will say human dot adults. What? Human dot adults value should be 0, right? Human dot adults value should be 0. So if we try to print it, control X, yes, enter, it should give us 0, right? Python C understand.py? None, right? It is 0. It has become 0, right? Understand this? Why it has become 0, right? So, we have what? We had what? We had a class, right? We had a class human, named as human, right? And we said what? Do what? Its adults value should be 0, right? Its adults value should be 0. Then we created an object of this class, right? And we said this object should be Rahul, right? And its age should be, we have provided age or not? We have provided age, right? We have said its age should be 19, right? And its name should be Rahul, right? Rahul. Increment the adults value by 1. It should be incremented by 1. But what this method does is that we have said at the rate at the rate, let's say, I will write it again, at the rate, right? At the rate class method, right? We have defined this is a class method. This method will accept a class, right? We can say def, let's say determine what accept class, right? Accept class and do what? Do whatever class you will accept access the adult's value and do it what? 0. And then we did what? Then we then we did what? Then we access this value, right? We have said do what? This Rahul, Rahul, right? Then do what? Then do access Rahul dot determine, right? Rahul dot determine, right? Access that Rahul dot determine and find out the value, right? What happened? Rahul dot determine went to the Rahul dot determine here and passed the class. What is the class? Human class, right? What is the class of Rahul? It is human class. Then human dot in place of class, it has passed class. Here human will be there, right? Human dot adults value will be what? 0, right? Now what happened? This adults value will again become 0, right? Now if we try to print out, it will give us 0 or what? None, right? No value was there, right? So it will print 0, right? This happened using class method. Another use of class method, another way in which we can use class method is that we can create an object using this class method, right? So for example, we have this class method def determine, right? And we can say class comma do what? Accept we have to create an object, right? Accept age and name, right? Accept age and name and return what? Return, right? Return return what? This class age and comma name, right? Return this, right? So when we create Rahul equals to human 19 comma, now using this Rahul object we can create another object, right? Using this class method, right? Using the Rahul object which will use what? Class method to create another object, right? Let's say for example Rahul dot determine, right? And I want to create an object, right? Let's say I want to create Bharat object, right? Bharat equals to Rahul dot determine, right? Rahul dot determine, right? Rahul dot determine will accept a class, right? So Rahul's class will be passed, right? And then it will accept what? Age, right? Age, let's say for example Bharat's age will be 19, right? And we say name is Bharat, right? Bharat, right? This is have we have passed, right? Now if we try to print what? Print Bharat dot, let's say age and print Bharat dot what? Name, right? Let's say print this, right? Print this. Then 19 and Bharat should be given, right? So we have successfully made an object, right? Control X, yes, enter, right? Python 3 understand dot py, right? 19 Bharat, this has been given. What happened here? This this was the class method we have declared and we have said okay this method, this function will accept what? A class, right? It will accept an age and a name, right? So using this we have told him that I want to send this age and this name, right? Now return what? This class. Class is nothing but this class, because Rahul's class is what? Human, right? So human age comma name, right? This age which has been passed and name, call this, right? This will call a constructor, right? This will call a class constructor, right? This init constructor, and it will pass what? This what? Self, right? So self was here Rahul, right? And this Bharat, right? Bharat. And do what? Age comma name. Age we have provided 19 and name we have provided Bharat, right? Self dot age equals to 19, self dot name equals to Bharat, right? Means Bharat dot age equals to age, and Bharat dot name equals to name, right? So when we print this, it will give us the output, right? This is how we can create an object using class method, right? Class method is used to pass our class, right? And also it is used to do what? It is used to create an object, right? What is the difference between this class method and static method? There's only one difference, that static method do not depend on the class, as well as it does not depend on the object, right? This class method does not depend on the object, but it can depend on the class, right? It passes a class, right? This was about what? This was about class variable, instance variable, and static method and class method. How to delete an object using del, right? Using del keyword, we can delete any object, right? Let's say, for example, we have created this Rahul class, right? Then after all this, we want to, let's say, for example, I want to delete it directly, right? Rahul, and I want it deleted directly, right? Print Rahul dot age, right? Rahul dot age. For example, if we want to print Rahul dot age, right? It should give me 19, right? But let's say, for example, I have deleted this object. Then Rahul, right? I have deleted this object. Now, if I say print Rahul dot age, it will, the object will get deleted, right? It will throw us error, right? Rahul dot age is not defined, right? This means Rahul has been deleted. Rahul object has been deleted using del keyword, right? Now we will be understanding inheritance, right? So let's say, for example, we have a class, right? Class A, right? Class A. We have this class, right? And we have some static variable inside it. Let's say, for example, what A equals to 100, right? This is our static variable, right? Then we have what? We have our constructor. We want our class, our default value of our object to be defined by them, right? So we can have a constructor, right? We can say def underscore underscore init, right? Underscore underscore, and we can have a constructor here, right? Constructor here, and inside this, we have some parameter self, where we will pass an object, right? And we will accept a value, right? For example, our value is age, right? Age, understood? Then inside it, what we want to do? We want to say self dot age should be equal to what? It should be equal to age, right? It should be equal to age. This is our first class, right? And we have another class, right? We have another class, class B, and it will inherit what? A. We can show inheritance using this bracket. Inside bracket, we have A, right? The class name which we have inherited, right? So this class we have inherited, right? And now this class will have its own constructor, right? Let's say, for example, def uh, hyphen hyphen init underscore underscore, right? It contains its own constructor. It will contain self, right? The object of B class, right? And it will contain some value. Let's say, for example, I will take this value as z, right? I will take this value as z, and then I can say any class which will inherit which will inherit another class, right? Any class which will inherit another class will contain the what? This constructor of that class, right? The inherited class will contain the constructor of the inherited class, right? So we can uh, inherit the constructor of the inherited class using super, right? Super keyword. We can say super function, right? We can say super dot. I want to inherit what? Hyphen this underscore in it, right? Underscore, right? And this, right? And it accepts a value, right? It accepts age, right? Here it accepts this age, this constructor accepts age. We don't want to accept this object. We just want to accept this age. We can say what I have defined z, right? So I can say z will accept age of this class, right? Uh, this constructor, which is inherited from the inherited class, will have a parameter named as z, and it will contain which value? This age value, right? This age value. Now, what we can say? We can say do what? When you take this value, when you create object of b class, right? Then do what? Then uh, in that class create a z variable and accept z as a value inside that variable, right? So we can say self dot z equals to what? Z, right? Then we can create object of this b class, right? Let's say create an object of this b class. So we can create object of this b class. Let's say Rohan equals to Rohan is an object, right? We want to create, and we want to create of which class? B class, right? And inside it, what it accepts? It accepts z value. Let's say z is some value, random value we will put, right? So we have created an object named as Rohan of b class, right? Now, if this b class print if this B class using this Rohan object, we want to access what? We want to access Z, value of Z. What will happen? It will give us what? It will give us 78, right? It will give us what? 78, right? We have said uh, this 78 is passed here, right? So B of what? So Zohan has been passed to self, 78 has been passed to Z, and that it has said self dot Z means what to do? This Zohan dot Z equals to contain what? Z, the value which has been passed, right? So Zohan's Z will contain what? 78, right? So it will give us 78, right? Now, if we print Zohan, Zohan dot, Zohan dot, Zohan dot this A, right? A is a static variable, right? Now, it will say whether this class contains any this Rohan object contains a. No, it does not. Whether this class contains a object, it does not. Then it will check to its parent class, and it will say yes, it contains, which this parent class so B class has inherited the parent class, so it will check into the parent class, and it will find out a equals to 100. It will print 100, right? So let's right, and we say Python 3 understanding dot py, right? 7800, right? It has expressed what? 78 and 100, right? Z value was 78 and it has expressed A, right? What happened here? We have what? Class A, right? We have class A, and inside it we have A equals to what? A equals to A equals to 100, right? A equals to 100, right? We have A equals to 100. We have created an object. No, we haven't created an object, right? We haven't created an object of this. What we said? We said create class B and inherit A to it, right? It will inherit A, right? We have said create what? Class B, right? And it will inherit what? Class A, right? It will inherit class A. And then do what? Then do what? Then, then whenever you create an object, Z will be assigned to this object, right? So create an object, let's say we created an object and named as Rohan, right? Rohan. This is an object, right? This is an object. We have created this object, right? And we have said Z equals to, we have assigned it 78, right? We have assigned it 78. By default, age value was 100, right? When we try to access Rohan dot z, it will say, okay, I will find out in Rohan object whether z variable is available or not. Yes, z variable is available. It will give us what? 78, right? 78. In the same way, we have said Rohan dot a, right? I want to access Rohan dot a. Now what will happen? It will find out whether a Rohan contains a. It has not. Now it will find out whether b contains a. It has not. Class b contains a. It has not. Then it will go to that inherited class where B from which B class has inherited, right? So B class has inherited from class A, right? So it will check in class A. Yes, there contains 100. A equals to 100. It will print 100 here, right? This is what happens in inheritance, right? This is what happens in inheritance, right? Now we will be understanding what polymorphism, right? Let's say, for example, we have these two classes, right? Two classes and one has inherited from another class. Let's say we have another class, right? We have say let's say class C, right? Class C, and it has also inherited from class A, right? Class A, right? It has also inherited from class A. It has also its own what constructor def, right? Underscore underscore init, right? Init underscore underscore, and we have what? We have some variable, we accept some variable. Let's say, for example, not A. Let's say, for example, D, right? It accepts D, right? Also, it also accepts what self, right? Self, comma D, right? Then we have inside this, we have this constructor of the super class, right? Super dot, and we have what? Hyphen, hyphen, right? This underscore underscore init, right? Underscore underscore, and it will contain what? D, right? So this age will be passed here, right? Now do what? Now uh this self dot D equals to D, right? Self dot D equals to D, right? Now this is inheritance, right? What happened here is class A has been inherited by class B and class C, right? Now, there's a concept called function overriding, right? So for let's say for example, we have function here, right? We have some function here. Let's say for example, we have a function here, right? We have a function here, def, def, right? Def one, right? One is a function, right? One is a function. It will accept what? It will accept something, right? Let's say self. It accepts self, right? And it does what? Inside this class A only, it does what? It does self dot, it accepts what? Self dot A. Let's say for example, equals to, A equals to, what should we do with it? We can uh, give it some value, right? We can say self dot A equals to 13, right? Or let's say return. It returns, it will return what? It return self dot A, right? Self dot A, right? It will return self dot A, right? Now, not A, let's say it returns self dot A, right? It returns self dot A. Now here, what happens is that here in def, right? In def, we have the same name of the function one, right? And we have also said it will accept also what? Self, right? It will also accept self means the object, and using this object, using this object, what do what access this z and return this z, right? Return z, right? Return z, right? Again, in C also we have something like this, right? We have self.d, and we have said another function we have inside it, right? We have def fun, right? We have def fun. Inside it, we have self, right? We have self, we are accepting self, and we are saying do what with self. Inside this function, do what? Using this self object, right? Self object, do what? Accept what? D and print and return D, right? Self.d, right? Return this value, whatever you have inside D, right? Return self.d. We have set this, right? Now, when we try to print what? Let's say we have created an object of class. Let me create an object of all the classes, right? Let's say, for example, I have Rohan equals to Sohan equals to Mohan equals to, right? We have these three objects, and this is object of class A, right? A, what it does? Object of class A, what it does? It accepts self and age, right? Some age it accepts, right? So self will be Rohan, and object age will be, let's say, 100, right? 100 is the age. Then in B class, this is an object of B class, and it accepts what? Z value. Let's say Z value is 200, right? 200. And this Mohan, it is the class of C. It is an object of C class, and it accepts what? D value. Let's say D value is 300, right? These are the three objects we have created, right? Now, when we try to access Rohan dot what? This fun, right? Fun. And we try to access what? Sohan.fun, right? Sohan.fun, right? Sohan.fun. And we try to accept Mohan.fun, right? Mohan.fun, right? Mohan.fun. And let me print it, right? Let me print it, right? Print this Rohan.fun, right? Rohan.fun. Print Sohan.fun, right? Print print Sohan.fun, right? Print Sohan.fun, and print Mohan.fun, right? Print Mohan.fun, right? Print this, right? Now Rohan.fun will print what? It will print 100, right? Mohan dot this Sohan.fun will print 200, and this will print 300. Control X, yes. Enter. Python 3, understand what why. 100, 200, 300. Why? Why? Understand this. Right. So we have defined a function inside A class. We have defined a function with the same name inside B class, and we have defined function inside C name with the same name inside C class, right? So what happened here? Understand this. What happened here? Understand this, right? Understand this, right? So what happened here? What happened here? Right? Let us understand this. What happened here? So we have a class named as what? We have a class A. We have a class B, right? We have a class B here, and we have a class C here, right? We have three classes, and this inherited from this. Also, let me draw it like this, right? Let me draw it again, right? So we have a class A here, right? We have a class A here, right? Class A, and we have another class named as B, and we have another class named as C, right? These are all classes, right? These are all classes. CLS, CLS, right? Now this A class contains what? This A class, when we have defined it here, right? A class contains A equals to 100, right? A class contains what? A equals to 100, right? At first, no one contains anything, right? Then we created Zohan equals to A equals to 100, right? And it accepts what? Age, right? So we have created an object named as Zohan of class A. Zohan, what we have created? Zohan, Mohan, and Sohan and Mohan, right? So A class we have created an object, right? Of B class we have created another object. Of C class we have created another object, right? This has inherited this. A B class inherit A, and C also inherited this, right? We have created an object of all these classes, right? This is an object, this is an object, and this is also an object, right? And this is what? This is A class. What is the object name of A class? Object name of A class is Rohan, Sohan, and Mohan, right? Zohan. So this is Rohan, right? Rohan object. This is Sohan object, right? This is Sohan object, and this is Mohan object, right? This is Mohan object, right? So this was understandable. Now when we created Zohan object, it has accepted age equals to 100, right? Age equals to 100. When we created Zohan object, it has accepted what? Age equals to 100, right? Age equals to 100. In the same way, Sohan accepted, created what? Z equals to 200 and D equals to 300, right? Z equals to Z equals to 200 and D equals to what? 300. So this was happened when we created an object. Now, when we try to access this object, also it contains fun, right? Also it contains fun, right? So it contains fun, right? So it also contains fun, right? Fun function, right? Which returns what? In the case of class A, it will return in the case of class A, right? So for example, for A, it will return what? It will return age, right? For class B, it will return what? It will return this Z, right? And for class C, it will return what? It will return D, right? Now, it will return D, right? Now, when we called Zohan.fun, right? When we called Zohan.fun, right? When we called what? When we called Zohan.fun, what happened? Right? What happened? So, it went to Zohan's, this Zohan.fun, right? It went here, right? It went to this class and it said what is the function fun, right? It was written what? Self.age. So it was written self.age, right? Now B says 200, right? I want what? Sohan.fun, right? Now there will be confusion that here when I say Rohan.fun, right? So these all contains fun function, right? It contains fun function. It contains fun function. This also contains fun function, right? This also contains fun function. So when I called Zohan.fun, this fun was called, right? No confusion. But when I called Sohan.fun, right? When I called Sohan.fun, now confusion occurred. Whether should I uh, call this function or this function, right? So here overriding comes in place, right? So function overriding, what does function overriding says that if you create new function with the same name, it will override the old function, right? So in class B, we have created another function, right? It will override what function? It will override a function of class A, right? In class B, it will override function of class A. So earlier, when we haven't created any function here, right, in class B, it was accessing this function of class A only. But when we created function of class B, right, so what happened? It overrided the value of class A. So earlier, when we haven't created any function here, right, we haven't created any function here, right, we haven't created any function here, right, this was our object, right, and it has some value, it has this function, right, it has this function, but we haven't created this function, right. If we haven't declared this function inside class B during declaration phase only, right, during declaration phase only, right, here only in this declaration phase only, if we haven't defined, right, what happened if we said sohan dot function, right, what happened then only, then it will go to sohan class and it will say uh, whether this object contains function, no, then it will go whether this class B contains any function, no, then it will go whether class A contains any function, yes, it will do the function, it will return whatever that function is returning, right, and it will print what, it will print age value, right, 100, it was returning age, right, it was here, it was returning what, age, right, so it would have returned age, right, so it would have returned what, 100, but now what happened, we declared here def1 equals to this, and we have said return self dot z, right, so we have said what, we have declared function here and it will override this function, right, and it will override this function and it will return what, this z, this z will be returned, right, so this z will be returned and self dot z will be returned, right, self dot z will be returned, and now if I go to sohan dot function, right, it will say whether this contains any function, no, whether this contains any function, yes, and it returns what, this object's value, right, this object's z value, right, so sohan dot z it will return and it will say okay, now my value will be 200. This happened here, and same happened for class C, right, so this was about, and this is called polymorphism, right, this concept is called polymorphism, right, polymorphism, right, poly means many, right, and morphism means ways, right, so we can define the same function in many ways, right, one can be defined in class A something and in class B something, right, and if it has inherited this, then this function will get override and it will return this value, right, this function's value. This is the concept of polymorphism and this is the concept of overriding. What is function overriding? What Discreping or what not taking the functionality of earlier function, defining the new function, right, this is called what, this is called function overriding, right, overriding the value of the previous function, this is called function overriding. Function overriding, the concept of function overriding comes from what, the concept of polymorphism. This is the way of polymorphism, right, this is the polymorphism, and when you can override the value of one function, this is called function override, right, so that is about function overriding and polymorphism, right, and then what we have to discuss, polymorphism, public variable, protected variable, private variable. What do we mean by public variable? Public variable, protected variable, and private variable, right? Right, right. Polymorphism was here, right? So we have to define public, protected, and private variable, right? So there are three types of variable, right? We have what? We have private variable, right? We have protected variable, right? And we have public variable, right? What is public variable? Which can a variable that can be accessed from anywhere, right? that can be accessed from anywhere, right? That can be accessed from anywhere. What is protected variable? Variable which can only be accessed within the class, within the class, or the class which has inherited that class, inherited that class, right? So protected variable are those variables which can be accessed within the class. For example, what do we mean by protected variable? Right? Understand this, right? Understand this, right? Understand this, right? We have one class, class A, and we have another class, class B, right? And it has inherited class A, right? This variable can be accessed here also, right? But it cannot be accessed in class C if this doesn't inherit class A, right? So it is not accessible here. It is accessible here, it is accessible here, but it is not accessible here. In public variable, what happens? We have A class, we have B class, we have C class, we have D class, right? Whether this has inherited or not, it will accessible from this also, it will accessible from this also. This class which has not inherited A class, which has inherited A class, it will be accessible to this also, it will be accessible to this also. This is called what? Public variable, right? Now we will understand private variable, right? Now we will understand private variable, right? What do we mean by private variable? Variable which can only be accessed within the class, right? Variables which can be accessed within the class. For example, we have class A, right? We have class B, right? And we have class C. Class A has inherited class B, right? It can be accessed here. It cannot be accessed here in the inherited class. It cannot be accessed in some other class also, which has not inherited class A, right? This is private variable. How can we define private variable? We can define private variable here. For example, let's say we have this, right? We have age, right? We have something, right? We have, for example, this age, right? We can define private variable and it cannot be accessed outside the class, right? What do we mean by outside the class? For example, if we created some object of this class also, right? Object of this class also. Object, let's say Rohan is the object, right? It will not be accessible from here also. It cannot be accessed. Point to remember, right? Point to remember. Cannot be accessed outside class means not even object can access it, right? Object can also not access it of that own class, of that same class also, of that same class also, right? Access it of that same class also, right? Same class object cannot access it, right? This is an object, Rohan. It cannot access this private variable, right? Let's say, for example, we have this. Let me remove all this, right? So that it may not be confusion for us all, right? Right, right. Now, I want to accept what? Age, right? And I say that this age should be a private variable, right? I say do what? Self, and I say do what? self dot, right, age equals to age, right. I can say that this is a private variable using underscore, right? Underscore, double underscore, age equals to age, right? Now this will be a private variable. Now if we try to access it outside the class using an object, right? For example, I have created an object Rohan, right? Equals to, I have created an object using this class A, right? And I have said set age to be 20, right? Access this age Rohan dot age, right. Rohan dot age, access this and print it, right. Print Rohan dot age, right. Control X, yes, enter. Error, right. Errors. Why error? I cannot access it outside the class. I can only access it inside the class. For example, if I had some functions and I want to do some functionality with age, let's say for example, I want to age with 10, right? Age plus 10. I can do it inside the class, right? But I cannot access it outside the class, right? If I had not defined as private, then it would be accessible through an object also, right? But I cannot access it through an object if I have defined it as private, right? As simple as that, right? And internally, what it is doing nothing, right? We have defined this, right? We have defined it self dot hyphen hyphen age, right? We have defined it like that equals to age, right? What it is doing internally, I will remove it. I will not write it in protected. I will write it in private, right? So here what happened, I have said that I have said self dot age hyphen hyphen, right. This underscore underscore, right. Self dot underscore underscore age equals to age. What it is doing internally, it is just changing this age to what, hyphen capital A hyphen hyphen age, right. It is changing it into this. That's why I cannot access it. If you have known it, right, then you can say what? You can say, let's say for example, Sohan is our object, right? Sohan dot hyphen this underscore 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 age, right? You will be able to access it. Let's say instead Rohan dot age, I can say Rohan dot underscore capital A underscore underscore, right, age, right. Control X, yes, enter. 20, right. So this is how you can access private variable if you have known that what it is doing inside with the private variable, right. That is about private variable and it is not secure, right. So we don't usually define private variable, right. Public protected private closure module, right. Modules we will understand the next video. Closure we will understand in the same video, right. What do we mean by closure? Let's understand, right. What do we mean by closure? Right. So here I have reached the end, right. Right. So we are here now and we will understand closure. Let's say, for example, we have a class. Inside this class, we have a function, right? Uh, let's not define it inside a class. Let's say Okay, we will define it in class A, right? Class A, right? And inside it, we have a function, right? Def, right? And it accepts what? Function name is what? Let's say C, right? We have function name. And it accepts what? It accepts self, right? Self, it should accept self, right? And it accepts what? Uh, we have to define in it. Right? I will not define it inside a class, right? I can say to understand closure, right? So we have a function, right? We have a function and its name is ABCD, let's say. This is uh this is closure, right? This is function. This is not is related to object oriented programming. This is we are understanding function, right? So this is a closure, right? Now this is a function, and inside this function we have something. Let's say, for example, it accepts what parameter a, right? Some parameter, right? And now we have another function inside it, right? This is we are understanding the concept of function, right? It is not related to object oriented programming for now, right? We can say we have another function, right? And inside it we have what? B, right? B, it accepts B parameter, right? Now what this function does is that it it returns a into b, right? A into b, a into b, right? A into b. Now this def abcd returns what? Returns, it returns this function. Okay, we haven't defined the name of this function. Abcd is the name of our first function. We can say bold is the name of another function, right? And it returns this bold, right? Bold. It returns this bold, right? It returns a into b, it returns bold, right? And then we can say, I want to do what? I want to call this function, right? In something known as z, right? In z, I want to call this function a, b, c, d, right? Also, let's say this doesn't contain anything, right? And we can say this contains, so that we can understand the concept of closure, right? B equals to 10, right? And we say ABCD, call this function and put what? 40 here, right? 40 here. And print, right? Print the value of Z, right? Print the value of Z, right? Control X, yes, enter. Okay, we haven't written this function, right? Return this function bold, right? Return this function bold, right? Control X, yes, enter. Okay. Function will accept this, right? Function will accept this, right? 400. How 400? Let us understand. Right. So this is the concept of closure, right? This is the concept of closure. What happened here is we have called this ABCD function, right? ABCD function, and we have passed 40 as an argument. Here it is taking 40 as a parameter, and then we are saying that uh, do what? Return. Here it will not follow up this, right? It will just return bold, right? It has been defined inside the function. It will not do with anything with this. It will return bold, right? Now it has accepted this 40, right? Value 40, right? But the scope of this function is over. Now its functionality has over. It has returned the value, it has over. Now it will return what? Def of bold, right? Therefore, bold will do what? B equals to 10, right? Assign B 10 to B, and it will return what? It will return this. This. It can use the value of the function whose functionality has over, right? This is known as what? Closure, right? In closure, if we have defined a function inside a function and we have returned that function, right? It can use the value of the our function inside which we have defined that function, and it can utilize that value, and it can save it inside the function, right? Return this value and save it inside this z, right? So this is called the closure, right? The scope of this function, this functionality of this function or work of this function was completed when it returned bold, right? But still, it was using this bold function was using a variable, right? Was using this a parameter, right? Uh, any function which can use the parameter whose functionality, whose then that is called a closure, right? That is called a closure. It has written this bold, and this bold has written what? A into B. A, it has used this A value, and it has used B of this value, and it has multiplied it with 10, and it has returned 400 here, and it has been given Z equals to 400, right? This is called closure. And this A, this A is called what? Free variable, right? Free variable. This is called free variable, right? So that was about closure. It is more to do with functional programming. It is less to do with object-oriented programming, right? So we have understood it in this only, right? Now in next video, we will be understanding what? We will be understanding this modules, right? Some modules and find handling, right? And error handling, right? This we will be understanding in next video. That's it for today. And if you like this video, then please like this video. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe my channel. If you want to enjoy another lecture of the same type, and also please like and subscribe and right. I would just want to say that like, subscribe, and share. Right. Thank you very much.